Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week we are talking all about mood swings. Now, do you often feel like you are on an emotional roller coaster where your emotions and feelings are very changeable, unpredictable and unstable? In your day, you may feel okay, happy, at peace, content, but then something may happen. And it could be a small thing. And all of a sudden, you feel really down, sad, or upset. And then often that mood can change quite quickly into anger or frustration. And it's like you have no idea what's going on and your emotions and feelings are really controlling you. Well, if you can relate to any of this teaching is going to be for you. We're going to be explaining what underpins and what causes these emotional mood swings and what you can do about it so you can retake control of your life. Okay, David, so how common is this unstable mood swings issue amongst the clients that you work with?
Well, for me, it's one of the most common, Alex. I give it a name. Over the years that I've been working with clients, I call it the emotional pendulum, swinging violently from one side to the other or stuck in one side or the other. But I think the term mood swings is also a good explanation of what we're talking about. And I really want to take my time on this because I want to give you the general teaching, but then I want to go into more specifics about what it is that this can make this so difficult for you to manage.
So when you say emotional pendulum, what you're describing is somebody who regularly, often on a daily basis, experiences the whole spectrum of emotions and feelings from positive, calm, peaceful to the extremes of feeling very down or anxious to feeling really angry and frustrated. So that kind of yin and yang, either side of the kind of middle zone of contentment and peace.
Yes, and it's what you said in the introduction, Alex. That sometimes it can be something that seems pretty minor or not important. And it's almost like my clients will use words like, I was triggered. They triggered me. The emotion went out of control. And so this really hits at the heart of the basic Wu Wei teaching is you are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim of them. And this teaching will allow us to unpack this and go a little bit deeper, because I'm not saying you shouldn't have emotions. I am not saying emotions are unnatural. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. Emotions are very important for us and they make us human. And to be in balance with our emotions. In Wu Wei, that's what Wu Wei means, in your flow with your emotions, is really what this teaching is about and how difficult it is to obtain this sense of balance and to stop this swinging between one extreme or the other one, or experiencing this internally but not showing it externally. So having a kind of a mask on. And you see, this goes right through your life, because a lot of my clients will come to me and say, I don't understand how after a night's sleep, I can wake up and be anxious or create anxiousness or worry about the day or worry about what so-and-so is thinking or saying or how the day is going to go. And then from waking up being relatively calm, within seconds, I'm anxious, I'm shaking, I've got butterflies as in my stomach. And that's why this is a general teaching, but to go into more depth today about the emotions will be really helpful, I think.
So I like, when we use the word flow a lot because that's really what Wu Wei is about. It's about living in our flow. And I guess for individuals who suffer from this propensity to have the mood swings, it's like they're not in a calm, peaceful ebb and flow where there is a natural experiencing of green light, positive feelings, and an occasional natural, authentic experiencing of negative, uncomfortable red light feelings. Because, bad stuff does happen, challenging stuff does happen in our day. So to experience that flow and to self-correct is a normal thing. But for people who suffer from mood swings, it's not just a gentle flow. It's like crashing ocean waves, which are sweeping them up and really messing up their life.
And the way you've explained it is so good because it goes to the heart of the situation. And something if you're watching this and this relates to you, I want you to really consider. And the point is, where are you being anchored? Where is your grounding? And for many of my clients, as you said in the introduction, their grounding, their anchoring is the emotion. This is where it goes wrong. They misunderstand the teaching. Remember the teaching. You are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim. And a lot of my clients are the victim of their emotion. As I just mentioned a few moments ago, the way they verbalize it. Oh, he triggered me. I know what he's thinking. I know what they're thinking. They're talking about me behind my back. I can't please them. I need something. And this inner dialogue, this self-talk is going on all of the time inside your head. And this has a really important and negative impact on your emotions and creates this pendulum or mood swings that even if something happens minor, you stub your toe. So rather than just dealing with it, it swings you out because it's almost like you're being led. Your emotions are leading you. You are the victim of your emotions. And I want to really emphasize this. Emotions are the consequence, are the outcome of what you think, and more importantly, what you believe.
But David, you use the example of someone waking up after a decent night's sleep. They haven't been kind of ruminating on a problem for hours and hours and hours. And then, so they wake up okay. And then all of a sudden they're into sadness, or they're into frustration and being uptight. Surely, a lot of people would say, well, I have those sorts of mood swings because it's my hormones, a lot of women, it's widely known that they suffer from mood swings because of their hormonal changes, whether it's the time of the month or the time of their life, if they're transitioning into menopause. So a lot of people would say, oh, David, how can you say it's all about what you think and you believe? Because it's hormonal, or it's, chemical, or there's something else going on, surely.
This is when we start to unpack it, because that question is very important. And in my profession and my practice, this is one of the most important things that we deal about. So first of all, there's two kind of parts to that question. Let's talk about waking up and having a relatively peaceful night's sleep, or maybe not so peaceful night's sleep. Why do you wake up and then you experience a really strong negative emotion? And I would call that the mindset. It's almost like you're going to bed. It's almost like you're programming your mind. And that's what these teachings are about, to be honest, is to put you in control of reprogramming your mind, not to be focused on the negative or looking for problems and all the stuff we've talked about in all of our videos, future-proofing yourself, trying to be in control, trying to please people. These create a mindset, a way of thinking. And if you have that mindset, even when you go to sleep, that mindset is still active. So as I said earlier, you wake up and you project ahead of the day and you see problems that maybe never exist. It's a good exercise to think at the end of the day, if you could make a little journal, how many problems did you perceive at the beginning of the day actually manifested and really worked out, and you'd be surprised how little they are. So it's getting that mindset right, which is one of the most important things. And then to move on to your point, which is really relevant, especially for ladies, going through the menstrual cycle or going through parts of your life, that your body absolutely releases chemicals into your bloodstream, which will affect your emotions. It will affect your emotions. But what we're talking about and why this teaching is so important is how extreme it's going to affect your emotions. Now, that's why I like the analogy of the pendulum. If you think about a pendulum swinging, well, if you're going through a menstrual cycle and your pendulum is already violently swinging, it's going to make it much worse. Exaggerates the whole situation, swinging from one extreme to being angry, to being violent. Some of my clients are even violent, to being crying, shutting yourself away, locking yourself away. If the pendulum is already in motion, of course, the added of the cycle will exacerbate it. It make it much worse. And so you've got to get that bit right first. Now, the pendulum, if you go through the cycle, will, for certain times of the month, be swinging. It definitely will. But you'll be more aware, more in control, and it won't be pulling you. I often have this image in my mind like a untrained dog pulling you around. You don't want it pulling you around. You want to be aware that this is the time of your month and how you deal with it. But to do that, you've got to retrace back to your mindset. And that's why this question is so important. Going back to you create your emotions. What are the beliefs that create the emotion? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? So, for instance, if you have a problem the way you think about yourself, one of the three lies, I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable, or I'm unworthy, and then you're going through your cycle, this is going to make it much worse.
So, it's what you're saying is your mindset and your beliefs set the foundation for the extent to which your mood and your emotions may swing, whether it's a gentle kind of swinging in self-correction around that middle Wu Wei zone of inner peace, calm, contentment, responsiveness, and how far it swings to the yin and yang of anxiety or sadness or anger, frustration. And we overlay, if we've already got that propensity, we then, if we have hormonal fluctuations or chemical fluctuations, all they do is exaggerate what's the foundation that's already set.
I think you use the word extreme, and I think that's the key word. If you're experiencing these extreme emotions, I will almost guarantee there is a belief system, a mindset that you really need to look at. And this will nearly always, not every time, relate back to childhood that we call the inner child. And we've done so many teachings in the archives on the inner child. But I would say that when you're going through a cycle, that swinging does increase, of course it does, but it shouldn't be extreme. So if you're experiencing the extreme, then there's some deeper mindset work to do on this. And can I just say something on this if you're experiencing this? And I guess I understand I would say this because I'm a Taoist and I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. But if this is you suffering from real problems with your menstrual cycle, please, just for a couple of months, try some acupuncture. You'll be surprised that the treatment of acupuncture will help to reduce the chemical effect and allow you to get more on top of it. But I'll go back to my original point. The mindset, the way you think, what you believe, really plays a big, important part of this emotional swinging, mood swings, pendulum. You've got to really be on top of what you believe and why you believe it.
And I guess, David, you recommended acupuncture, and I have regular acupuncture, and it really, really does benefit me in terms of leveling out any monthly mood swings and that sort of thing. But equally, people could use meditation practice, walking, exercise, journaling. just almost like as a maintenance exercise to restore a kind of, to lower the busyness in the mind, lessen the negative self-talk, and to help bring that pendulum swinging back into the center zone. But it does not undo the need to do the work on the core beliefs that you're talking about.
That's just what I was going to say, Alex. A lot of people will come to me and they say things like, oh, I do yoga, I do this, I do that. And that's great, that's wonderful, that will help. But if you've got that, whatever you want to call it, that core belief, that mindset going on, that's not going to change the mindset. This is why we do these teachings. Doing the golden thread. Again, we've demonstrated on so many videos. The golden thread is asking the self-inquiry, the why question. Why this? Why that? Because you've got to go back to the original misalignment in your thinking, as I said earlier, which normally occurs in childhood. Not always, but in my experience, high percentage, 80, 90%, we're talking about this misalignment is to do with a part of your mind that you may want to call your subconscious mind or your ego. I prefer to call it the inner child. And that's where the real work, the foundational, the fundamental work, because that goes right back to our model. Because if you are not connected to what I call Shen, your spirituality, your innate value and worth, and living a life of integrity, truth, and honesty. And then when things happen, as simple as stubbing your toe, or a menstrual cycle, or a problem at work, it kind of throwing petrol on top of a fire that's already burning. If we can put the fire or bring the fire down, so if the petrol is thrown on top, it's not so extreme. I love Alex's word. We want to move away from the extreme because I want you to be in control. I want you to be empowered. I don't want that going outside of you to other people.
Before we move on to talk about the inner child, David, I just want to pick up on something that I know a lot of listeners will be thinking about. Where does the diagnosis of bipolar fit within what we're talking about here? Because obviously, bipolar is characterized by extreme emotional mood swings. Are we talking about the same thing here? Can the same principles and theories be applied to that Western medical diagnosis?
I think this is very difficult because if you've had a diagnosis of bipolar, I would really be listening to what I'm saying and thinking deeply about it, because I would be wanting you to go back to the practitioner that gave you that diagnosis. And please, as always, when we're talking about this, never interfere with any medication that your practitioner is giving you, but just allow yourself to think a little bit more widely about what we're talking about. Does this swinging, this bipolar that you've been diagnosed with, do you think it has a root, a foundation in your mindset, your thinking, your childhood, what happened to you earlier? So I would be asking you, please listen to this teaching, see if it applies to you. If you think, yes, there are some issues in my childhood, my parenting, my upbringing, some abuse, something happened I've never really resolved, I would please ask you to go back to the practitioner that gave you the bipolar diagnosis and see if they can recommend you to do some much deeper emotional and work about your childhood and see whether that will lower the fire. But please, it's very important. Do not interfere with your medication at all until you speak to the practitioner that gave you the medication. But if you've got that diagnosis, this could be interesting to you to think about and try doing the golden thread. If you look into our archives, do the golden thread for yourself. You can just ask yourself, why? Why do I want to swing? What's going on here? What's the deeper reason? And I think you would find that helpful, along with the diagnosis and the medication that you're already taking.
Thank you, David. So the inner child. Mm-hmm. When we have these mood swings and sharp changes of emotions, and it's more often than not about major problems. So we're not talking about life catastrophes or life shocks. We're just talking about general day-to-day things which really knock our emotions and feelings and make us really off balance and unstable. In my experience, it's very much like my inner child takes over.
Yes.
Like things, I get knocked off balance, or all of a sudden my happy state tumbles down into an unhappy state because something happens that I didn't really want to happen, and things aren't the way I'd like them to be, which is, predictable, steady outcomes that I want, no difficulties, no conflict. And it's like, because there's a mismatch between what I'd ideally like and reality, it's like my inner child steps in and makes me feel really down all of a sudden.
Well, I think that's a perfect example of the inner child. That's how I would diagnose this. If things aren't the way that you would want them to be, what a great diagnosis of an inner child. When reality is not the way that you want it to be. And I think that's, if you get that, if you see that reality, people, events, situations are not the way that you want it to be, and as you just explained, the part of your mind that you may want to call subconscious or ego, I call the inner child, will immediately step in and throw a temper tantrum. It will use emotions, and that's why I love the analogy of the inner child. It is just like a child using emotions. Now, I like this term. I know a lot of you out there don't like this term, but I call it emotional manipulation. And many children will use emotional manipulation and get their own way. When you hear something in your head, and this could come from your physical child as well, it's not fair. Mummy, daddy, it's not fair. That is a child saying, it's not the way I want it to be. Then, as you just quite rightly explained, if you then, the emotions take over, and I think the wording that you said, it's the dialogue, the emotions take over. I get led by my emotions. I get dragged down. I get triggered. And if you're using all of these type of words, you're already in what I call the carousel of despair. You're already going around and being led by your emotions. And then the pendulum takes over and you either get stuck in one of them or you swing from one side to the other side. And that's why the inner child work, please have a look at it. Please think about your childhood. Please think about how your core beliefs, because you can change those. Core beliefs are not set in stone. You are not the prisoner of something that you believe. And in actual fact, when I work with clients, you know what? When we do the golden thread and we get down, they're not even your beliefs. They're beliefs you've inherited from your parents, from your family, from your siblings, from school. They're not even your beliefs. And once you can see those and find those, it is like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, if you like, because then you can be in control. And this is what I want. This is why I do these teachings. I want you empowered. I don't want you to be the victim of your own emotions. How can you be a victim of emotion that you've created? And this is a change of thinking, a change of ideas. And we've tried to look at it today to tell you it's not easy. There are other things you have to be really focused to get down to these core beliefs. But as Alex has just explained, if you have this part of your mind that jumps in and throws a temper tantrum, throws a wobbly, leads you, and you're using words like, I can't help it, I don't know why I do this, this takes over, it's like a black cloud, you use all of these words, you are now the victim. And that's what we're trying to change.
And I suppose, so the inner child has often has a belief that things should be like perfect Disneyland. Everyone should get on. There should be no conflict. Things should always go the way that I'd like because I believe it's the best way for everyone.
Yes.
Very idealistic thinking.
Yes.
And those sort of childlike beliefs that we form when we were a child for understandable reasons, we've carried them through into adulthood, and they are affecting how we respond to everyday situations. And in the case of this teaching, they're really dictating these emotional mood swings we're having. I guess also a lot of people would have maybe a childhood belief that somehow the world's against them, or the world's unjust, or people don't like them, or, so there's almost like a variations on a theme of like a childish conclusion we've drawn when we were younger because of something that's happened to us that we've misunderstood. And again, that sort of belief, like the world's, there you go, look how this has failed, look how this hasn't gone the way I wanted it, the world's a bad place. So if we hold that sort of negative, untruthful belief, then the consequence is we're going to, our stable moods, our happy moods, our calm moods will crash and burn quite easily, because life is unpredictable as well, and life is changeable, and life doesn't go the way and isn't fair always to everybody,
Well, the way you've explained it is perfect, because this is the way, the childlike way. Now, when we were 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think those are the really important age, between 6 and 9, this way of thinking is appropriate, absolutely appropriate. Why wouldn't a child believe that things should work out the way that they want them, that things aren't fair? This is childlike thinking and vocabulary, talking the way that they see the world. The problem is, you cannot have those beliefs in your adulthood. They're not fit for purpose. And they're your beliefs. And for me, whatever analogy you want to use, those beliefs are like the computer program that's running your life. And as Alex has explained, you look for, I think Alex calls it confirmation bias. I call it self-fulfilling prophecy. So you look at your life and you disregard all of the successes and the things that go well and the things you're successful on, and you focus on the negative things that proves the point. And then it becomes the carousel of despair. And then the outcome, the consequence, are your emotions. Your emotions, your moods, whatever you want to call them, are swinging violently, because I often think about it's like a leaf in autumn being blown about by the wind. If you look at the leaves, they've got no control. And so this is how a lot of people are living their life. They're being blown about by the wind of their emotion without realizing they create the emotion. And so they react to the emotion rather than reacting and understanding and taking accountability and responsibility for the belief that creates the emotion. That's where you'll do the real work. That's where you will make life-changing decisions in your life. Because if this applies to you, and this is why the inner child, and this is why we concentrate and done so many teachings on the inner child, because there's lots of nuances here that may or may not apply to you. But you can't change what happened in your childhood, as dysfunctional and as bad. And I hear, and I'm sorry if that's you, have had a dysfunctional and a really poor childhood. You can't change that. We haven't got a time machine to go back and put it all right. But you can change your perception of it. You can change your mindset on it. You can change your beliefs. These are in your power to change. And that's what I see as the empowerment. Now, This is not going to suddenly put you rock center. Again, that's why I like the pendulum. But the extreme of the pendulum swinging will reduce. And then you'll be in what I believe is the right way. Wu Wei, being in your flow, reaching your potential, dealing with challenges, dealing with those difficult people and situations, but dealing with them more at ease in your flow, not swinging to the extremes and punishing yourself and harming yourself and living a life that is driven by emotions rather than driven by Shen. That's what I want for you, a life that's driven by Shen, by your innate value and worth, by believing in yourself, that you have everything you need and ever have already inside of you. No one can give it to you. And you live a life of truth, honesty, and integrity, following this Wu Wei, being in your flow, reaching your potential. That's what I want for you.
Thank you, David. That's brilliant. I really hope this teaching has helped you and perhaps given you a new perspective on emotional mood swings. I will put links in the show notes to more teachings that will help you with the subject, including teachings on emotional triggers and all those inner child reparenting teachings that will be so valuable to you as part of this undoing process to bring you back into that beautiful center zone of the emotional pendulum. If you have enjoyed this teaching, please do let us know and perhaps share it with someone else who you think may also benefit. David works every week with clients all over the world on exactly these sorts of issues. And if you'd like to learn more about David's Zoom call consultations, I will put more information on those in the show notes as well. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new teachings every week and we would love to share your journey with you. Bye-bye.